Brooks here, coming to you live from Bangor, Maine. I am a physician assistant. I've worked in emergency medicine for 14 years, but also have my own wellness center, Inner Greatness Center, where I'm really trying to help everyone bridge the gap between modern and alternative medicine. So I'm excited to do a video today on kidney health. Thank you so much, Jolene, for messaging me and asking me to do this. I think that our kidneys, they're so important, but they're an organ that so many people don't think about, right? Like, we're really concentrating on brain health and heart health all of the time, and we oftentimes forget about what do our kidneys even do. You guys, they're important. They filter waste. They help us to create red blood cells. They help us produce vitamin D. They control our blood pressure, control the pH in our systems. And so I have a really unique story about kidneys. I love our kidneys, and someone else's kidneys actually got me into medicine. So I was actually studying English, minoring in French, and a dear friend, he was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called Goodpasture's disease. Now, this autoimmune disease, it attacks both lungs and kidneys. His kidneys were much worse off than his lungs, underwent some major treatments with steroids and chemo agents, and went into remission, and then was diagnosed with renal vasculitis. So I ended up completely changing my major, getting a Bachelor of Science in Nutrition so I could go on to physician assistant school, and here I am now helping to educate you guys. So because of his ill health, which now he's doing great, has a kidney transplant, I'll always be so grateful to him for sparking my interest in really taking the dive to go into medicine. Anyway, thanks to him, and then thanks to Jolene for prompting me to do this video. But we deal with kidney health all the time in the ER. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but we use kidney numbers to assess patients' hydration status, because you know what? Dehydration, so lack of water consumption, can actually result in something called pre-renal renal failure. So that can cause your kidneys to fail. Certain drugs that we take that we think are completely benign over the counter. Hey, good morning, me. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Carrie. Certain drugs that we take over the counter, like ibuprofen, Aleve, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, are metabolized, they're processed through our kidneys, so they can cause damage to our kidneys. Before we do CT scans on people, and if we're going to administer a contrast dye, we have to look to see if people's renal function is appropriate. When people are diagnosed with urinary tract infections, we look at their renal function. So we're kind of always assessing this, and oftentimes when we tell people that their kidneys aren't doing well, they're not even aware. So what I'm hoping to do today is to provide a little bit of value to you guys as to what you can do to keep your kidneys healthy. Now, we're gonna start with some basics, making sure that you're hydrating properly, okay? Using these anti-inflammatory drugs that are over the counter, using them sparingly. Use them when you need them, but be aware that there are side effects associated with these drugs. Also, juniper berry essential oil. So I'm a huge lover to essential oils. Make sure, good morning, Larry, good morning, Nancy. Make sure that they are certified pure therapeutic grade. But juniper berry, it's a great detoxifying agent, great cleanser. You can use this orally. You can use this aromatically, so you can diffuse it, and you can apply this topically. Our kidneys, guys, are in the retroperitoneal area, like right in the back flanks. Like, where your back fat is, like lower back, like that's where the kidneys are. So you can apply it topically there. Now, this was used by the Egyptians, the Greeks. They used to smell it before going into big sporting events. But those are just some minor ways. Let's get into the meat of this little presentation here. Yeah, a drop in water would be absolutely fine, Michelle. So what I want to tell you about, I want to tell you another little story, okay? Guys, I have a sister, and she's 11 years old. So there's a big age discrepancy between us. You can talk to my mom for the story. Anyway, 8 years ago or so, my mom, she was busy, doing what she thought was best for her family. And she was raising Lily as a vegetarian. I, at the time, was living in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and my ego was really in the way, right? Like, I had this Bachelor of Science in Nutrition, I'm busy practicing in a 60-bed emergency department, and I thought I knew better than her. So I thought that she was doing a huge disservice to my sister, and so I completely shut her out for several months. She was sending me all these books talking about plant-based diets, and guess where they were going? In the trash. But finally, I kind of started really looking into what it was she was doing, because I was so concerned about Lily's health. And so when I did that, guess what? I haven't eaten meat since. So this is not a soapbox to tell you that you need to go plant-based or that you need to abolish all animal products, but this is what I'm going to tell you. There are 3 significant dietary risk factors associated with declining kidney function: animal fat, animal protein, and cholesterol. Okay, so we have seen studies specifically coming out of prestigious institutions like Harvard that show that consumption of animal fat actually clogs up the kidney. Now, looking more specifically at animal protein. All right, so do you guys know athletes, bodybuilders that are consuming massive quantities of protein because they want to build muscle? Okay, I do. I actually know a guy. He was consuming so much protein that he shut his own kidneys down. Okay, why is this? This is because the consumption of animal protein, not plant protein, animal protein, increases the workload of the kidney. So it induces something called hyperfiltration, makes your kidney work harder. And if your kidney's working harder, it has more of a chance to fail. So I looked specifically at a research study looking at individuals consuming tuna fish sandwiches, okay? Not several days or weeks or months after the consumption of this sandwich. Hello, Susan. But 1 to 3 hours after consuming this animal-based protein, their kidney function declined. And we can measure this by seeing how much protein is excreted in the urine. And then they actually took those same individuals and they fed them kind of sounds gross to me, a tofu sandwich. So a plant-based protein. So, and the same thing didn't happen. And we can see that this is related to inflammation, because when we fed those same individuals animal protein along with an anti-inflammatory which combated the inflammation, the effect wasn't the same. So what I'm trying to say, in kind of a roundabout way, I'm trying to kind of dumb this down so we can all understand and be on the same page here. When we consume animal protein, it causes inflammation in our kidneys, which causes damage to them and causes them to work harder, which is something that we don't want to do. Whereas if we consume plant protein, that doesn't happen. Now, another thing, when we consume animal products, it actually causes an acidic environment in the kidney. Okay, so that's another thing that's problematic. Whereas when we consume plant-based products, these are fairly neutral or even alkaline, in other words, base forming, kind of combating that acidity. So, my recommendation to you guys is trying to adhere more to a plant-based diet. Not telling you what you need to do, but what I'm asking is, would you be willing to add more fruits and vegetables into your diet to help combat this, right? Because we can't combat the toxins that we're exposed to. Like, I saw a guy yesterday, he said I could mention him on my film, but I saw a guy yesterday diagnosed with renal cell carcinoma. Doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, but exposed to lots of toxins in his job. And so he and I spent a lot of time talking about what it is he can control in his life. He can't necessarily control the toxins, but he can control what he's putting in his mouth. So I hope you guys are going to take a bigger interest in your kidneys, that you're going to make sure that, especially during these summer months, that you're hydrating properly, that you're using over-the-counter medications responsibly. that you might take a look at dabbling in essential oils, and that you might increase fruit and vegetable consumption because of what I just shared with you about the consumption of animal products. So anyway, if you know someone that could benefit from hearing from this, if you know someone that's kidneys aren't doing great, share this with them. Oh, one other quick thing. There's this other very interesting study. It looked specifically at individuals that had some issues with their renal function, right? So what we do in traditional medicine is we restrict sodium. And so these individuals were on a sodium restricted diet. When we fed them a vegan diet, the protein in their urine completely went away. And then when we went back to like the traditional, just sodium restricted diet, it came back. So it was like an on-off switch. Like when people were like adhering to plant-based diet, their kidneys were working fine. And then when they went back to the traditional like standard American diet, their kidneys weren't. Anyway, just another little study. I read like 3 or 4 before hopping on here, and I wanted to share that with you guys. So anyway, if you know someone that could benefit from this, share it with them. Have a wonderful day, guys. Thanks so much for all your support, and I'll chat with you soon. See ya.